Good morning, Representative Appleton. How are you?
Good morning. How are you today?
Good. It's March 28th. The session ends a month from today. It's going to be a busy month. Do you want to talk a little bit about the question that I'm sure is on everybody's mind, which is budget, budget, and budget?
Yes, that's always what's on everybody's mind. Right now, the Senate is the one this year who comes out with their budget first. And the focus, of course, is on the operating budget. But we also have the transportation budget and the capital budget, all which have to pass or will be here for a very long time. No one really knows what the Senate is going to come up with. They march to the tune of a different drummer, and so it will be a very interesting month. My focus is to defend the safety net and social services, because the most vulnerable are the ones who always get cut, because that's the part of the budget that's discretionary. So I'm going to be watching and making sure that we protect the elderly, the vulnerable, the children, and that.
And every family in your district most likely has one member or more who falls into one of these categories.
Oh, absolutely. And when you figure that we are in the midst of a silver tsunami now, which means that we have many more people over the age of 65 and actually many more people over the age of 80. By 2020, 15% of our population in Washington State will be over the age of 65. And in 2030, 15% will be over the age of 80. And we just don't have the resources to help. So we have to make sure that we have home care workers so that we can keep seniors in their home and help them to be independent. All of these things are part of that part of the budget that can be cut and done away with.
There's a lot of talk about new revenue, and I think that most people agree that new taxes are most likely off the table. But one form of new revenue is closing some tax loopholes that various special interests have enjoyed for decades.
Right.
Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, first of all, I want to explain that because of the Supreme Court decision a couple of weeks ago invalidating 1185, which was the initiative that said we had to have 2/3 vote, we are going to be able now to close tax loopholes. Before that, the Lieutenant Governor had made a decision that closing tax loopholes was a tax increase and therefore required a 2/3 vote. Getting a 2/3 vote in this establishment is almost next to impossible unless it's very innocuous. So now we will have a list of loopholes that have been suggested to be closed. That doesn't mean every one of them will, but we need the revenue, and sometimes everybody has to share the sacrifice. And the governor had said that there's going to be a lot of pain in these closing of loopholes, but that it's something we have to do, especially if we're going to fund McCleary. To continue with that, anytime you have a tax loophole or you have an exemption or anything like that, it's a shift in tax. It doesn't mean that somebody isn't going to pay it, and it's going to be the people, the middle class, the working families who are going to have to make up for that money that's being taken off the tax rolls. So it's very important not only to close the tax loopholes for education, but to also make sure that our families are not making up for what the tax exemptions were.
The last month is going to be full of action on bills. Your bills that you have worked on and gotten through the House are now in the Senate. Do you want to talk a little bit about some of those?
Yes, I'm hoping that they will come to the Senate floor and get passed. I have a bill that is in Trade and Economic Development right now. It's a community revitalization bill. It's a very important bill because so many small towns have vacant and abandoned buildings and no way to incentivize business to come in and fill those properties. So what my bill would do is allow cities, counties, ports, housing authorities to borrow up to $2 million interest-free to put in the infrastructure so that that would incentivize business to come in. And to add to that, it creates jobs. And that's the whole purpose of what we're doing here this year, is trying to create jobs to bring back our economy and put our families back to work. That's the most important thing. I also have two bills, actually, that are in Commerce and Labor. One is an antifreeze bill, and what it really affects is wholesale antifreeze, which happened to not get into the bill that we passed several years ago. And what we want to do is we want to put a bittering agent into the antifreeze because it's deadly. It's sweet, it attracts children, it attracts pets and wildlife, and it's something that we needed to address. So we did. We worked very closely with the wholesalers and came to an agreement on that. So hopefully we'll be saving lives of pets and children and wildlife. The other bill that I have in Commerce and Labor is about the Marine Employees Commission. They are state employees, but they're far different than most state employees because they're responsible for the lives of millions of travelers. And the Marine Employees Commission is the one that hears complaints, grievances, unfair labor practices, and in legislation that we had done previously, it was going to sunset the commission. And I'm trying to keep it alive because it really affects the lives of those state workers, but it also affects our lives just as much. So those are the bills that I still have alive, and I'm just hoping that they will pass.
It's going to be 2 weeks before your next legislative update, and at that point we'll be very close to the end. I just want to see if there's anything you want to mention before we go here.
Well, I'm hoping we will be very close to the end. As everybody knows, sometimes you just can't get a negotiated settlement like on the budget. And that means that we would have to go into special session. And right now I don't feel really good about us ending on April 28th. And I hope I'm wrong, because we owe it to the citizens to do the job of business and of government and get it done. Unfortunately, that doesn't always happen. But even in 2 weeks, we'll have more of an idea of the budget. The budget should come out next week. I thought they were going to come out this week, but they should come out next week. And then we will have an idea of just where we're going. Again, I'm going to be in a defensive mode, trying to make sure that safety net is still there. And I'm also going to be very aware of the capital budget. We have several projects that we would like to fund in Kitsap, and so I will be watching those. One of the most important is Francis Haddon Morgan. You know, 2 years ago it closed. And so the mayor of Bremerton and Kitsap Mental Health would like to restructure it into a place for homeless families. I don't think that people understand that if you're a man, you go into a male shelter. If you're a woman, you go into a female shelter. But you can't go into one for a family. And that's something we really need. So I'm hoping that that will happen. If anybody wants to get a hold of me, they can call our office, 360-786-7934. And also, you can email me. I answer my emails. I look at them. So if you really do have a problem or you have something you want to talk about, please contact me, because that's my job, representing you.